Welcome everybody to Unite Tonight. I am your host Caster Kanashi, and in this episode we'll be talking about a very sensitive subject in terms of the Pokemon Unite community. Something that is so divisive amongst the players and content creators that I'm very aware of the backlash that I could receive just by discussing this topic. But then again, nobody really watches these videos. I mean, this one's got like, what, 20 views? I mean, it's probably just because the shirt looks impressive compared to the sad sack of flesh that it's currently plastered on. It's like making a perfectly good cup of hot chocolate and then having the fall fairy come by and just sneeze pumpkin spice all over that. No, I do not want my hot chocolate to taste like Gordon cinnamon. Please go away. Anyways, the aspect of Pokemon Unite that I wish to discuss today is competitive matchmaking. And I want to tread this topic very carefully. I'm not trying to make any enemies. I just want to go ahead and bring up some solutions and discuss ideas of how to possibly make this work. Now, when did this all start? Honestly, this script has been kind of in the works for about 5 months. It's been brewing in the back of my head, been in and out of Google Docs, but it all started after Crashy's town hall for Unite. Where he invited a bunch of content creators together to go ahead and discuss the current state of Pokemon Unite. Now, given it was 5 months ago, but the topics discussed are very relevant today. Now, although I didn't get a direct invite, I did sit down and watch the entirety of the video, and there was one thing that really stuck out to me, and this was the discussion topic of how will Pokemon Unite fix matchmaking to prevent players who have under 50% win rates from ruining or hurting the competitive experience. And from that point, it kind of separated into two groups. You had Crashy himself, who discussed that, oh, it's the matchmaking system that needs to be fixed in order to help teams and help players find a good match in order to prevent these specific players from ruining the experience. On the other hand, you had Indie Bear, who said maybe it's not the matchmaking itself that's the problem. Maybe it's the player base just not having enough knowledge of the way how the game operates. And then you had Dr. Kendo, who is there as the amazing moderator. And I'm pretty sure if he wasn't there, somebody probably would have died. But overall, just a great discussion overall. And now the thing that I do want to discuss is both of these sides, both of these topics. Regardless of which side you're on, we could all agree that Pokemon Unite's competitive scene does need a change of some sort. In this video, I do want to discuss competitive matchmaking, but in order to be fair, I'm actually going to be discussing it from both sides. What Pokemon Unite itself can do in terms of the matchmaking part to make the games more balanced, but also what Pokemon can do to educate the player base so that our games could be overall more enjoyable. So, if you guys do have anything that you guys want to say in terms of agreeing or disagreeing with me, feel free to talk to me in the comment section or on Twitter. I am totally available to go ahead and chat about this topic. And this is something that has been in the back of my mind for quite a while, and I'm glad that I could at least open with something like this. So we're actually going to start off with Crashy's idea that the matchmaking system itself needs to be fixed. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first concept, which is to actually split up the competitive pool. Essentially, it's breaking it up depending on the number of players you're queuing with. So there will be a solo rank for those of you guys who want to just try to go on solo or don't have any friends, just like me. On top of that will be duo and trio rank, which will be if you have a couple of buddies who you want to go and play with. Maybe you have a lane partner who you definitely like to play with. So that will be for duo and trio queues. And last but not least, there will be a team rank for those of you guys who can count above the number 4. Unfortunately, I am not one of those people. So yeah, the thing that this actually does is that it has a ton of benefits for the competitive community. The first thing is that it makes it fair in terms of the familiarity between teammates in terms of the game. You won't ever have a solo queue go up against a 5-stack or even a duo or trio queue that just bullies them out of the lane. It makes it fair across the board, and you know that everybody is kind of in the same boat when it does actually come down to it. Another thing that this will do is that it will create a different competitive ladder. And this is something that me as a solo queue player has trouble climbing. usually the people who do make it to the top are a part of an organized team, or at least have a group of friends who they could always queue up with in order to rank and grind up. And as a solo player right now, that is literally impossible. So what this does is, because we are separating out the queues and the ranks, it will give the solo players or even duo or trio players a way to go ahead and get recognized in their group. And I'm not discounting the current leaderboard at all. I think that both sides are really impressive. Regardless of if you climb it solo or if you do go through teams, they are both impressive and they both deserve to be recognized. Another similar idea would be a role queue, which would essentially have players select the role that they wish to fill for the team prior to queuing up to the game. And what this ideally would do was that it would separate out roles, responsibilities, and maybe even laning for certain players and make it a lot easier once you load into the game. Now, this is really good, especially for solo queue players, because I have had personally a number of games lost because teams would much rather have their name in the KO feed and try to strive for MVP that way and end up sabotaging themselves rather than actually wanting to win the game. We've seen this happen a lot. Adding structure would definitely help out there. The only thing is that this would really hurt is pre-made 5-stack teams. And that is because it will limit the creativity that they can have. For example, if you guys watched Pokemon Worlds this year, the teams that mainly came out were a mix of Serena, Dragonite, Aegislash with Hoopa Blissey, and that would be 3 all-rounders and 2 supports. If we did have the system, it might lock in a couple players and force them to play a different role that they might not necessarily be comfortable on. And even though it does limit down the number of options that they do have, I do think creative teams will find a way how to go ahead and fill certain roles that way. The one thing that I do want to mention is, like, right now this probably wouldn't be viable just because we don't have enough Pokemon in the game, or making it easier for people to get Unite licenses so that they could fill out these certain ideas. It would be much more helpful if players had the option to play more than the roles that they are specifically asked to do. But I do think that later down the line, with more Pokemon and more easier ways to go get Unite licenses, not like you, Dodrio, I see you. Why are you behind gems for a week? That makes no sense. But anyways, I think that those could definitely help out later down the line, and role queue can definitely be an interesting and viable option. The downside to the two systems that I've already mentioned is that since it is splitting up the competitive queue, it will take a lot longer for us to actually get into a game. And we have seen this already with other competitive games such as League of Legends, Dota 2, and Overwatch of all things. Because they are separating out the queues, sometimes it takes the players a lot longer to go ahead and get into a match. It could sometimes even be longer than the game itself. And it really does depend on the number of players on at the time of day, what role you're actually going to go ahead and fill. All of those really do come into play to determine how long it is going to take the players to go ahead and get into these matches. But overall, I do think that this would improve the quality of the matches that we have. Whether one or the other is implemented, I won't know. But honestly, I do think that this would help improve the quality of the matches and make it even and balanced for a lot of teams. This would also give Pokemon Unite a reason to go ahead and try out some of those stadium mini games, maybe to just put it on the side, maybe just add as a queue game, so that way players can still stay in Pokemon Unite and not have to wait that long. Maybe have a couple of really fun games just on the side and allow for some fun with not only their queue partners, but maybe other players online as well. The last concept that I do want to discuss is something that only affects Masters rank, which is the highest rank in Pokemon Unite. And just for those of you guys who might not know, once you get to Masters rank, instead of it being ranked by the diamonds that you have, that you have to win like 3 diamonds to move up to another rank. Once you get to Masters, you start out with a number. You just have a number which is 1200 when you start. Now, when you win or lose matches, you start losing rank by a certain interval, and then you start losing and winning or winning, and just going up in the numbers or going down in the numbers. The thing that I want to point out is that there are some players who only get to Masters just to go ahead and get like the quick rewards that are available there during that Unite season. I've seen players just get to Masters and then just inevitably give up because they know that they can't get to 14 or 1600 where they start getting the border or the stickers. And it makes the game a lot harder because, believe it or not, once you get to Masters, you can't drop out of Masters. You could only go down in terms of the number. So you can start out with 1200 in terms of your regular competitive points, but you could go down as far as you want and you're still considered a Masters ranked player. Now, here's the thing. I do understand that some of the games are out of your control and you may lose some here and there, but I do agree that you should be able to win an X amount of games in a row. And when it does come down to this, I do believe that once you get down to 1100, which is 100 under the original starting one, you should have a diamond system once again. If you cannot sustain 3 wins in a row, you should be dropped back into Ultra and have to climb your way back. Where in Ultra, that is up to Pokemon Unite, the computers, the devs, the players, you know, all that. But I do agree that players should not just be able to keep their Masters ranking just because they've reached it once. On top of that, I do have an idea, and I think that this may help with incentivizing players to continue to play, and that is to not give out the little incentive prizes until you get there at the end of the season. Now, the reason for this is some players, as stated, they just get to Masters, they get whatever the little prize is, and then they dip. That's it. But if you had the prizes for Masters given out at the end of the season, players would try to continuously keep their rank moving up and try to hold a certain rank until the end of the season. And in order to do that as well, this is something that I've been discussing and I've seen in other competitive games, you might have to have a Masters decay. And I hate saying it, but it's true. Like, if a player doesn't play for a certain amount of time, like I would say maybe even 2 or 3 days, they should start losing competitive points and now have to go ahead and try to play the game and catch up. And if what this does is that it makes players who just want to sit at the top, it punishes them for just waiting it out, but it does incentivize players to keep coming back, keep playing the game, and trying to strive for those rewards at the end of the season. I know what you're already gonna say. Kanashi, why haven't you brought up Pick Ban at all? Honestly, do I think Pick Ban is good? Yes, I think it's gonna help our games be a lot more smooth. Do I think Timmy Studios and Pokemon might implement it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not them, but it is definitely an idea that they're playing with in terms of their development structures, so it'd be really nice to have it. But does this fix the matchmaking problem that we do have right now? And the answer is no. Pick bans may be able to help you in the game once you get there, but it doesn't help who you're already queued with. So even though you do already do the pick ban things, you might still have the same issues that you've been running into before. And here's something that I do want to explain. Doesn't mean that I don't want to discuss pick ban. If you guys do want to do a pick ban thing, hit me up on Twitter or at least in the comment section. I will check them. And if it gets enough traction, I don't mind talking about it. We'll make it a Unite tonight. We'll probably do it on a future episode. Now that we have finished up Crashy's side of it being the matchmaking system itself, let's go ahead and dive into IndieBear's idea that it is the player base that just lacks knowledge. And that's not me and Indy calling you guys all stupid. That is not it at all. We're just saying that the information in Pokemon Unite is not easily accessible, and it could really just be easier for all of us in order to learn the map and understand how this game is supposed to be played. So we're actually going to go into a couple of options here, and we're going to first start off with something that Timmy and Pokemon Unite could actually implement pretty quickly. The first one is a map-specific overview or tutorial. Now, this is very simple. When you first open up Pokemon Unite, right, you go into the basic tutorials. They teach you, oh, this is how you score. This is how you get Aeos energy. This is how you dunk. This is how you knock out other Pokemon. This is how you have to play utilizing certain mechanics and controls, right? It's really basic, and it's put onto a smaller map just for easier navigation, which is really good. It's really nice to know how the game operates, but it doesn't translate into actually playing the game. Because once you load into a standard map, most players are lost more than the actual champion of Galar. You have to consider the fact that you're in a completely different environment. You were not taught about middle lane. You weren't taught about buffs. You weren't taught about, big objectives that happen during the game. And I feel like if Pokemon Unite were able to implement something that gives us the timings, important objectives to rotate to, tells us exactly what these certain Pokemon do, it would make it a lot easier, not only for newer players, but also for experienced players to understand how to play this game and find little nuances and tricks to help us out. And if anything, this would make it easier for not only newer players, but because we've had Thea Sky Ruins now, it's important for everybody. It would make it a lot easier for everybody to enjoy the game. In addition to map-specific overviews and tutorials, I do think the same thing can go for Pokemon themselves, especially ones that you have unlocked already. Now, I understand there's a practice mode that you can access through Pokemon Unite and just go ahead and hop in there and test them out that way. But I do also think that it would be important to have a tutorial and understanding of how some of the mechanics work for the Pokemon itself. So, just for fun, let's go ahead and play a quick game of Guess That Move. If I were to say, if the description was, this Pokemon uses its hands in order to deal damage to the opposing Pokemon, would it be A, Crustal's X-Scissor? Is it B, Blissey's Pound? Is it C, Wigglytuff's Double Slap? Or D, Lucario's Meteor Mash? It's all good. Just take a couple seconds. You write it down on a post-it note. Leave it in the comment section below. I don't know. Write it on your hand. You have a lot of time. You can do whatever you want with this. Just a couple more seconds. I'm not going to put up a timer. I'm just going to tell you when it's over. And done. Did you guess right? Well, you're wrong. It was Mr. Mime's fake out the whole time. And don't worry, as a consolation prize, I'll give you guys some fashion tickets. See, regardless of what description I told you, they all apply to all the moves there. It's just a matter of understanding how it looks and how it operates in the game. It would also be helpful if there was a way to test out certain abilities and seeing how it does specific things in the map. Like, for example, Dodrio's new jump kick. You're able to hop over certain walls, but you can't hop over all walls. You just need to know which ones you can and cannot do. So I do think that not only having a practice or tutorial mode is really important, it also will go ahead and give us a hands-on experience of understanding the Pokemon itself. Along with tutorials and guides for the Pokemon and the map itself, it would also help a lot if we had patch note clarity. At the moment, we literally have to rely on people in a Discord server to go ahead and dissect every single piece of information that we get from Pokemon, find out any changes, so on and so forth, and give that information to us as the players. Shout out to everybody in the Math Court for doing that. They spend countless hours just trying to figure out the game itself. But for the most part, people right now, including myself, we just kind of estimate. We're like, this does this much damage. But it would be a lot easier if we knew the exact numbers. Right now, the patch notes only use vernacular or words such as changed, increased, and decreased, which honestly is not helpful. It's a little helpful, but it's not helpful a lot. So, like, hypothetically, what if I said right now in your kitchen I have increased the number of Mr. Mimes? Okay, now you're like, okay, well, one is already too much. Okay, you can't just have one Mr. Mime in your house. But what if it was like 50 duck-sized Mr. Mimes, huh? What if it was 5 horse-sized Mr. Mimes? Now you're freaking out, right? What if I told you there are like 100 small Mr. Mimes and they're just like in your cups, in your cereal? You would freak out, right? You wouldn't know. We wouldn't know. I said increased. It's more than before. You had 0. Now you have some. It doesn't help the fact that we don't know these specific numbers because we don't know how many Mr. Mimes are in your kitchen, okay? So overall, we need to understand what is going on in the game so we can make a better educational guess of what's going on and how to play the game to the best of its advantage. Now, Honestly, if you gave us the exact numbers, this would help so many people overall. One, it would help the content creators from having to guess how much damage it does. Two, it saves everybody from the math chord from having to spend countless hours of just trying to figure out how much certain things do and figure out the math between and how certain objects and certain held items interact with other Pokemon and other specific stats. And last but not least, it affects your competitive scene, because now we can turn around this information a lot quicker and bring you more competitive games without having to worry about changes and increases and decreases. We actually have the numbers so that they can make an educated decision about moving forward with their picks, with their moves, and with their draft. And I feel like all of that could be just easily mitigated if Pokemon just gave us the answers in the patch notes. The last educational aspect that I do want to bring up is raising the minimum level to play competitive. Now, at the moment, in order to play competitive, you have to be trainer level 6, you have to have 5 Unite licenses unlocked, and you have to have at least a fair play score of 80, which honestly is not that much. You can do a lot of this probably just in your sleep or just figuring it out as you go. But the thing that I do want to bring up is that level 6 is even before you unlock all the active battle items. You don't unlock full heal until you're at least level 14. So that is also just something that I'm very confused about. Why would you let us play competitive before we're even ready to hop into the match? Now, here's a couple of things that I do want to bring up and want to discuss. One, I want to raise the level to level 20. Now, this may seem steep, but I do think that the number of games would be really helpful for the players in general. Now, number 2, instead of it just being 5 Unite licenses of any kind, make it be 1 Unite license from every class. Now, that way it allows the players to have to play every single class and understand how it operates. Now, to make this easier as well, I do think that when you're unlocking your first 5 Unite licenses, they should come at a discount in the store. It makes it a lot easier for players to want to play certain roles and get Pokemon that they think will fit that specific category easily. On top of that, you have to win 5 matches with each of the Pokemon that you've unlocked before. That way you understand what the roles are for the Pokemon, as well as understand how the Pokemon plays. And because of that, it's not only going to help the Pokemon players understand each role, but it will also give them an experience of understanding what role they might want to switch to. You know, some people may have unlocked Talonflame as their first Pokemon, but then realize, wait, I don't really like the Speedster class. Maybe I like the Defender class, or maybe I don't like the All-Rounder class. Maybe I want to do something like support, or vice versa. Maybe you don't like supporting and maybe you want to go to an attacker. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can try, and at least making players have that experience is really helpful. I also think that you should be able to make the held items super affordable and also allow them to be leveled up in a way that requires the players to understand what they do. This once again also leans into patch note clarity, but it could also help out in terms of the trainer's experience by giving them these items as they continue to level up. This is just a really basic go at what I think is helpful for the Pokemon Unite community. And I'm honestly not the best person to go ahead and discuss this. Right now, in order for players to even catch up or even feel interested in playing Pokemon Unite at this competitive level, if you're looking for builds, guides, news, updates, anything, you go onto YouTube and you find a plethora of wonderful content creators who are out there trying to help our community be better. But I honestly think that if Pokemon Unite were to just build this into the game, it would make it a lot easier for newer players to just join in and have fun with the game. And I'm not saying, you know, content creators, they just take away their jobs. I think that if you really want to do it, reach out to them. They would be more than welcome to make a tutorial for the game. And if you want them to go ahead and narrate it, they'll do it. Because not only do they get to prove that they are a part of this game, we are a part of this game. We make this game enjoyable for so many people. But I do think that if Pokemon Unite were to include guides and tutorials and stuff like that, they should reach out to the content creators, ask them if they want to help, And if anything, it would make their game a lot more easily accessible. Now, I've also heard the counter argument coming out from other Unite content creators as well, saying that Pokemon Unite will never be a full competitive scene because Pokemon Unite is still considered a part of a family IP of Pokemon. But I highly disagree with that. They say that Pokemon Unite will never be one of the competitive MOBAs and will never compete with those of like League of Legends and Dota 2, but I do think that they can, and they probably will in the future. I mean, the competitive scene is already blossoming. You have the Pokemon Company International already backing up some of these tournaments, considering things from regionals and more recently Worlds, and having teams compete at a high national level in front of some of the biggest Pokemon crowds that we have ever seen. And I think that that is super important and super fun for the Pokemon Unite community. So if anything, if they didn't want to have a competitive scene in the first place, they wouldn't have introduced ranked in Pokemon Unite, period. And I think that overall, if they do take this more seriously, if they end up giving us more patch notes, more clarity, and a whole bunch of other things down the line, it would be really helpful for the scene, not only to just grow in terms of player base, but also to grow in terms of the competitive scene and having more players, more tournaments, and more spectacles for people to watch and enjoy. In conclusion, when it does come down to the final debate, is it the matchmaking system that TiMi Studios put in place, or is it the knowledge of the player base of Pokemon Unite players? I feel like it's honestly a mix of both. You can have players who win above 50% of their matches and have no impact in their matches, but you could also have knowledgeable players lose matches because at the end of the day, Pokemon Unite is a team game. Trust me, I hate always being funneled into playing support and defenders when everybody else just wants to be attackers and all-rounders. It's not a fun job, but I do it because I feel like as a team, it works better. But that's just me and my games. I think that if Pokemon Unite were to implement any one of the solutions that I offered today, it would not only help the player base understand the game more, it will also make the quality of the matches way better. And better games equals the longevity for the game itself. So I honestly think that Pokemon Unite, if they were to implement any one of the things that we have mentioned so far, it would help out the community greatly. Once again, I'm Caster Kanashi. I hope and I wish you luck on all of your games in the future, and I hope you find that one Mr. Mime that's still in your kitchen. Good night, and I'll see you guys on the next one.